Ladies, does my hair look okay?
Yes, it looks great.
Nobody's concerned about me. Welcome everyone to the Ask an Architect show. Here I am today with Leah Ijjas of Gensler. She's going to tell us a little bit about her experience since graduation and what it's like in the field and to be out there practicing. Real quick before we get started, want to give a shout out to our sponsor, the AIA, the American Institute of Architects. We couldn't do this without their support, so thank you to the AIA for helping us out with Ask an Architect. So, Leah, let's get into it. Real quick, tell us kind of the high-level summary. Who are you and what are you all about?
Well, my name is Leah. We covered that. I'm a practicing architect in DC here. I've lived and worked here for about 5 years. Raised in Tampa, Florida, where I got my undergraduate degree from University of Florida, Bachelor of Design in Architecture. Okay. From there, I went on to University of Maryland, got my master's. I graduated at the peak of the recession, so it kind of made sense to go straight into my master's degree. There weren't a lot of jobs out there for
Seems like a good strategic move.
Yeah, and Maryland was a great choice because they were just kickstarting the solar decathlon competition, which I really wanted to be part of. Yep. So I spent the majority of my 2.5 years there working as a team leader on
solar decathlon.
Yeah, on that, which was awesome.
Cool. Was that a major reason to go to University of Maryland? Was that the defining feature for you?
It was, yeah. They had been involved a couple times previously, and they were kickstarting a new session, and wanted to be part of it. Yeah.
Okay. So what next? What after Maryland?
Well, Solar Decathlon opened a whole bunch of doors for me that were really exciting. If you're not familiar with it, it's a 2-year design build competition, kind of like Rural Studio in a sense. And it gives you a whole different education that you don't normally get through, I learned all about media and communications. I'm still not great at it, but I'm a lot better than I would have been.
They don't know that.
And branding and all that kind of stuff that you don't normally cover in a general education. So that actually, I got my first job out of school giving a presentation about the Solar Decathlon competition, and that sort of led me to where I am.
Is sustainability a personal interest of yours within design?
I would say it's a personal interest of most architects, right? It's something we all pay attention to. I don't focus on it on my day-to-day work now, but I think it's just an inevitable part of being an architect right now, and it was good to work in an integrated environment like that.
And then from Maryland on to, was it Perkins and Will first? Okay. Yep. And then Gensler after that?
Yep. So I've been in Gensler about 2.5 years. Okay. Been practicing just over 5 years now. Okay.
So let's start with Gensler, because Gensler is an immensely popular firm amongst our audience. They are also a partner of ours. They're super helpful and supportive and engaged with us. So what is it like to work at Gensler? What's the culture like? I know you're in the DC office, and different offices probably have a little bit of a different culture, but what's it like to work at Gensler?
I love it. I know it's kind of cheesy, but Gensler has 2 main focuses, in my opinion: design and people. And the people part is what I really love about the day-to-day. So like you said, we're broken up into studios. I'm part of a lifestyle studio, which focuses on entertainment and retail and sort of sports and recreation, all the fun lifestyle aspects of design, which are really cool. But the environment on a day-to-day is very collaborative. I love a big firm because there's so many resources at your fingertips, and the opportunity for education is really high. There's a lot of continuing education efforts that happen. And mentorship, like no matter what you want to learn about, there's someone there that can teach you. It's just a matter of finding them. Sure. So those are all really great aspects to me.
So we have a variety of people that come through this show. A lot of them are from larger firms, and some from smaller firms, or they're at their own place. And the people that come from larger firms tend to really highlight the advantage of having so many resources at your fingertips and having so many people available to get advice from and to consult from. Would you say that's your experience at Gensler?
Yeah, definitely. There's a ton of people, whether it's in your own office. So the DC office is like 400 people, so it's one of
Okay.
the bigger offices, so there's a lot of people. But I also get to work collaboratively with a lot of the other Southeast region offices, or even, I know a lot of people that work with our other global offices, so it's a lot of exposure at all levels.
And you mentioned the lifestyle studio, and I want to get into some other things about your path, but that sounds really cool, and probably not an area that a lot of folks get the chance to work in. What does that mean? What is a lifestyle studio, and what kind of projects come through your desk?
So specifically, I've been working on an urban repositioning project for about 2.5 years, which is all about strategic placemaking in urban environments. So it's kind of a hard question to answer, but anything that talks about experiential design is what we focus on. And so, like I said, we do a lot of hospitality, a lot of retail centers, anything entertainment or sports related generally.
Huh.
It's the way I like to describe it, just anything cool that you go to on your weekends is probably what we like to design.
That's tough. I don't know how you deal with that day to day. That must be a struggle. All right, so kidding, obviously. Leah, let's talk a little bit about your path to licensure, because you've finished up the process relatively early in your career. And so what do you think were the keys to your success to getting it done so quickly? Did you have a certain mindset? Did you have a certain strategy or tactic? What was it that helped you get through really quickly?
It's funny to hear you say I got through it so quickly because it felt like a lifetime.
Yeah. That's great. That's great to enunciate, because I think people see people in early parts of their career and think, wow, they must have gone through it very quickly and very smoothly.
Yeah.
But maybe that necessarily wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So what's your honest take on it?
Yeah, so out of school, I needed a little breather. I think that happens a lot. And I wanted to work for a little while and get exposed, and I didn't think I was in any position knowledge-wise to take the exams out of school. Architecture is one of those professions where the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so actually more project exposure and more project work that I did, I was like, there's no way I could take these exams.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, there's so much I don't know. And I met with an old mentor of mine, actually from the Solar Decathlon, for dinner one night. She was like, Leah, it's just studying, and just take it. It's actually probably easier. The more you know, the harder it's going to be.
Sure.
Which kind of was
you're
an
almost
interesting
prejudiced
take on it.
because of your perspective.
Exactly. So I just went for it. I married an architect, so we decided to do it together. Kind of ripped the Band-Aid
Isn't that
off.
romantic?
He kick-started the process, which was good.
Excellent.
And yeah, it's been a great thing to sort of, for lack of better way of saying it, check off the list.
Sure.
Becoming an architect, you work so hard in school for 6 years, 6+ years, that this is sort of that final bow to tie on it.
Was it always a goal? I mean, were you pretty focused on it as soon as you graduated? And
I definitely wanted to be an architect.
in terms, okay, so
I
that
didn't
was the
come
goal.
this far and work
Sure.
that hard in school to not actually be able to practice on my own. And I think that taking the exams and becoming licensed opens a ton of doors for you in the profession. You can move forward in any direction that you want from there, which is something that I was very interested in.
So what happens once you've reached that goal? So you've been working, like you said, it wasn't super quick for you. It sounded like you had to work hard to get through it. So once you reach that goal, well then what happens next? When you come home that night or the next week after you've rested a little bit and got over it, like what's the next part of your career? What's the next goal?
Yeah. It was hard to go back for a second. I mean, I'll be honest, I did not pass them all first try. I took the tests 9 times, so there's 7, and I failed 2. So
Sure.
It happens, and it does take
absolutely.
time, So don't be scared if that happens to you. Moving forward, people love to ask the question, like, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 5-year plan?
Absolutely.
My 5-minute
your 5-year plan?
my 5-month plan, my 5-year plan is all to just be better and more experienced than I am today. And I know that sounds a little bit cheesy. I love Gensler also because I think there's a lot of room to grow and continue to grow at the practice there. Whether or not I plan to specialize in anything specific, I'm still kind of figuring that out. I really like management of projects, and I'm generally good with people, so I definitely see that as a path that I'm on right now.
Sure.
And sort of pursuing. But I think the other really fun part about architecture is that you get to be agile, and you get to bounce between the design and the management and the technical side. And I really don't like environments that sort of silo you into one of those.
Yep.
So I like to believe that I'm on a path that I can practice in in a way that encompasses all of those.
And Gensler's probably great for that because there's so many different building typologies and there's frankly so many different offices, or I know they even have a great international program that allows some exchange sometimes. So it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity. You mentioned kind of moving your way up and working your way into management and that being a goal or a focus. So what kind of characteristics do you see that those people hold at Gensler? The people who are the either associate principals or principals, what kind of attributes do you see that a lot of them hold that are good to aim for?
They're all very passionate people, and they're all very optimistic people. So I think it was Norman Foster that has a quote that's like, if you weren't an optimist, you could never be an architect. I think that's probably pretty true.
We can put that on Instagram. We can make a little quote card.
But they're all extremely passionate and dedicated to what they're doing, right? And I think that's really exciting to be in a room with them because no one's ever there because they feel like they have to be. They're genuinely so excited about what they're doing. So I don't know if that really answers your question.
I think it's a great answer. So the optimism part, I think, in particular is crucial because once you get to that level, you're dealing with a lot of stresses and a lot of different things are on your shoulders. So if you're not optimistic about it, that could probably carry negatively throughout the whole firm.
Yeah.
So
I think there's also a sort of it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is permission attitude. Yep. So people get to pursue things that they're passionate about at Gensler, which is really neat. If it's not already in line for you, you can kind of create your own path and move forward with something that you feel really strongly about.
Very cool.
Art Gensler, the founder, obviously came to speak about a month into me working there. And it was his first time in the new DC office. So it was like this big day, and I'd only been there a couple weeks. And someone asked a question. They raised their hand and were like, what's the question that you get the most frequently? And he said, the question I get most frequently is, how do you control 5,000 employees? Yeah. And we're like, oh, that's actually a really interesting question. How do you do that? And he's like, well, the answer is really easy and obvious. You don't. You hire great people and you get out of their way. Yep. And I thought that was like a really good way of sort of just sharing what the Gensler mentality is. It's sort of like letting you take leadership on things and move forward on things you feel passionately about.
And he has a book out right now all about his management strategies and how he built the firm, right? So check that out if you're out there looking for a good architecture book without so many pictures.
Does exist? Yeah,
right. So we talked a little bit about management and characteristics. Personally, in a relationship perspective, what's an ideal mentor for you? What does that situation look like? What's the ideal scenario?
Someone that you jive with. I don't know that mentors happen because someone said, hey, this is Nick. He's going to be your mentor. Mm-hmm. I've never had one specific mentor. I've been exposed to a lot of great people that can teach me different things. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I try and find people that share interests and ways of working, I guess. But I've definitely had multiple mentors, and all of them have taught me amazing things about the profession.
So you take little snippets here and there of all the experiences that you have with management in and around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what's the hardest part about being, at the early stages of your career? What are give me some of the honest frustrations or feelings you've had along the way in your first 5 years of practice? What's it really like?
Navigating your first 5 years is really hard. Like I said, it's a really versatile profession. There's a lot of different directions you can go. As I kind of alluded to in my answer about where I want to be in 5 years, it's hard to figure out because there's so many options, right? So many different building types and project types and different roles within your projects. As part of the Emerging Architects Committee, I'm actually helping to organize a series right now called Architecture Uncensored. We do it every year. Yep. It's a really fun series, not to off track, but...
No, please, let's pause for a minute. What is Architecture Uncensored? That's a project or initiative you're working on, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about it. What is it?
So it's a really great series we do every year. It's usually 3 sessions, and it explores sort of taboo topics in architecture that you don't feel comfortable talking about in the office, which as an emerging architect, there's a lot of things you don't always feel comfortable talking about with your boss, right? So we've covered topics like work-life balance, pay, that's always a big conversation, licensure and the value of licensure, And this year, our entire series is actually called What the Bleep is an Architect.
Cool.
And it's exploring this versatility in the profession, right? Mm-hmm. So we've been master builders, and we've been thought leaders, and there's sort of all these different ways of labeling what an architect is, and on a day-to-day, the people I work with always do completely different things than what I'm doing, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think, to go back to your other question, the hardest part in the beginning about navigating sort of where you're going is just being able to absorb and take in all these new things that are being thrown at you and use that to sort of design and craft your own path. Another really hard part is transparency between what the sort of strategic vision is, maybe from the place that you're working versus what you're seeing on a day-to-day. I think when I first came out of school, that was a really big challenge for me, is that I felt very task-oriented and not goal-oriented. Mm-hmm. So I didn't always know what we were moving towards, but I knew what my specific little job was, whether it be in Revit or in InDesign.
Yeah, so your task for the day, you knew what you had to do, but you weren't fully aware of the long-term goal.
Yeah, which can be kind of hard to dive into what you're doing, because in school, it's all of, you know, the vision. It's your vision. You created it. You came up with it, so it's easy to do your day-to-day. But
I like that you brought up the Architecture Uncensored there as well, because I think we have our audience are architecture students in AIAS chapters around the country, and I think that's a really cool concept that they could actually implement as part of their programming. And so we'll keep an eye on that, because I think that's a really cool thing you're doing there.
Yeah.
So let's take it outside of the firm a little bit. And you mentioned work-life balance. Is there something on the personal side for you that provides that work-life balance, or maybe informs your architecture practice through, giving you inspiration, or maybe it's freeing your mind, or whatever it is? What about your personal life helps you balance your practice? Is there something in particular that's valuable to you?
My way of working with live-work balance is that I try not to draw a line between them. Mm-hmm. And I know that's kind of hard to do at times, but architecture is just as much a way of thinking as it is a practice for actually doing things. So if you can integrate that into your life, you feel a little bit stressed out about the hours that you have to spend in an office versus the rest of your time. Like I said, I married an architect, so he works at a smaller firm doing multifamily residential. So we recently bought a house and gutted most of it and rebuilt it together. So that was a good side project for me to feel sort of distracted from the job setting.
I was going to say, being married to one doesn't necessarily help you, disconnect from the profession. And actually, renovating a house is keeping it within the same industry as well.
It is. I love to travel, if that gets me outside of... But no, I think being so young in my career, I guess, I've spent a lot of time thinking about architecture.
Well, you mentioned the word integrate, and so
kind of embarrassing.
I've sometimes heard now that there's work-life balance, but it's actually work-life integration now more than anything. It's stop. I've actually heard that same phrase that you used: stop trying to draw the line and start trying to figure out how to make it actually work and work well together and blend.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're hitting on a trend that is just people are starting to realize. All right, one last question to kind of wrap up here. So again, we have an audience of architecture students. You were probably near their shoes in about 5 years ago or so. If you were to kind of go back and give yourself a recommendation or give yourself some advice, what would you say? What's some good advice for people who are about to graduate?
I would say that you should try to design your career path the way you would design a project. So you come up with a great concept for it, right? You come up with a great concept, and you try to hold on to that concept through the whole project. But don't let personnel changes, scheduling conflicts, budget cuts, all the things that we deal with on our projects kind of uproot you in a negative way. I think I've gotten to where I am, and I'm hopefully still moving forward on this sort of yes man concept, which is sort of when doors open, I try stepping through the door and seeing where it leads me. And that's connected me with a lot of really great people in the industry and led me to some really neat projects I never would have done alternatively. So don't be shy, and just kind of know what interests you, but just keep moving forward and keep pushing forward and meeting new people and exposing yourself to new things, and you'd be amazed what that'll do.
Somebody once told me never to write your ambitions in permanent marker, meaning, you know, keep it open and keep it fluid as it comes, and it sounds like that's kind of what you're doing.
Yeah. And it's not good to, I mean, it's good to have specific milestones that you want to hit, like licensure. That's a great example of, by this day I want to be licensed, you know. But there's so many changes in the profession. We're a very versatile and fluid and dynamic profession that changes with various industries, and
yeah,
so
I mean, there may be. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, there may be software and other things going on 10 years from now that aren't even in existence yet.
Yeah.
So you just got to be adaptable and be able to counterpunch to it. So, well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming by. I think there's a lot of value that we got out of this, and I think our viewers are really going to appreciate your perspective. So thank you very much for coming, and we'll see you next time on the Ask an Architect show.